Every stable society rests on one foundational agreement, which is that power can change hands peacefully. When that agreement collapses, the only thing left to decide who rules is force. And if you think that that agreement is untouchable, look closer. Because if you think that you're paying attention, you might not be. Now, we are, of course, talking about the right to vote. In order to understand how incredibly close we are to losing our voices, we must understand what power having the right to vote gives us. Because if we misunderstand what voting really is, then we misunderstand what we could lose. Voting isn't just a way to choose leaders, it is a way to legitimize them. It lays out a process and a protocol for the transfer of power peacefully. Voting isn't just a person that you elect, it's an authorization by you that the person you vote for will represent your interests. Voting is really what gives the government consent to do things by the public. And this ties into our other rights as well, like freedom of speech and freedom of protest when the government does things that we don't consent to. Voting is an expression of the social contract that the government's going to take care of you in ways that represent you. We agree to pay taxes to the government in exchange for assurances and protections. Voting means that we consent to a government that protects our lives, the liberties laid out in the Constitution, and our property. We vote every 2 years, and we can vote in different ways. You can either vote by mail, or you can go in and vote in person. But the sad thing is that a lot of people can't be bothered to do either one. And it's sad to me, because this right isn't something that we have had historically throughout human history. It's something that the general population had to violently rip away from the people in power. And if this value is something that our ancestors held so dearly, to the point where they put their lives on the line to capture it, protect it, and keep it, then by the Omnissiah, this needs to be something that we fully understand. Without the right to vote, you have a dictatorship. Plain and simple. In history, this has taken many forms. Right now, you see it in places like China, North Korea, and Russia. And I'm going to use those examples a lot in these videos. Before this whole democracy thing and voting became mainstream, you had monarchs that would rule by family lineage. This, they declared, was their divine right. You didn't have rights. I had rights. You don't have the right to choose your leader. I choose the leader. You are not equal to me. We were all below them, and thus we had no rights. Or this came in the form of voter restrictions, where only landowners could vote, or only men could vote, or only white people could vote. And we need to care about this because it gives us power, collectively. One that says we do not consent to your actions. Without the right to vote, I can't be like, hey, fuckface, I don't like what you're doing, and we should stop without being punished. And you should care because without it, you've lost autonomy. And you've probably at this point lost your freedom of speech. Voting is so important because if you don't do it, well then you're just complacent in whatever happens, good or bad. To think that there's enough people out there that could have made a difference, then they just didn't do anything. So those who are complacent are kind of responsible, right? How can you say they're not? Obviously, everybody has the freedom to choose whether or not they want to or not. But there are consequences to action and to inaction. And so I really, honestly, sincerely do not mean to offend any of you, and if I have, I apologize. But we need to wake the fuck up. If you don't vote and the opposition is fascism, then you're responsible for whatever happens, as much as the person who voted for it. Because I'll vote against it. I'll make my voice known that I'm nay, but if you don't say anything, then you're complacent in what happens. And so I really believe that something people fought and died for really shouldn't be taken for granted. We need to understand why they died for it, why it's important, what happens if you don't have it, and why free speech and voting are always the first fucking things to go. Because once you change how the power structure works, you don't have to fight for it anymore. You don't have to get people's vote. You can just be in power. And so naturally, authoritarians fucking hate voting for a plethora of reasons. When people are allowed to vote you out, you lose your legitimacy as the leader. Voting is a decentralized method of picking things. Rather than just a few people up at the top appointing other people, you have all the people deciding who they want. And so authoritarians must have as much power as possible centralized under their control. When have you ever seen a dictator give up power willingly? It's never happened. Authoritarians have to exert full control over their population in order to maintain power. This means no voting, no freedom of speech, no free press, what else? No protests. It means yes censorship and yes surveillance. And these things need to be in place in order to remove any of the unpredictability that voting causes. And so at the end of the day, I think we all kind of hopefully now better understand these concepts. But I don't think people really kind of link these concepts together a lot of the times. How freedom of speech and voting are always going to be intertwined. Like you can't have one without the other. And so in modern days, we see this take shape in a ton of different ways. And if you're paying close enough attention, you might notice, like I have, that these things are starting to happen here. First and foremost, elephant in the room, fine. There's just been a systematic attack of the trust in our elections. For 250 years, our elections were fine. But then suddenly, the fucking impeached pedo grab him by the pussy guy who has authoritarian tendencies loses an election. And now, whoop, magically, the elections are all fraudulent. Okay, so we have elections. It swings back and forth throughout history. Sometimes it's a Republican. Sometimes it's a Democrat. There was actually this one time where a Democrat got elected 4 times in a row. That's crazy. He must have had like really popular ideas that created the middle class or something like that. Anyway, we've fixed people being able to get elected more than twice. Things are going fine. Elections are always monitored. Sometimes people win, sometimes people lose. They shake hands, they try again next time, and sometimes they're successful. Other times they're not, and there's basically zero fraud ever in election history. And then this motherfucker comes along, and suddenly all of our elections are fraudulent. But not any of the ones in the past, just all the ones he's involved in. And you know what? That's fine. Maybe there was fraud. We should investigate that. I want my elections to be secure. Let's investigate the fraud. Oh, wow, okay, so it turns out there was literally no evidence of anything at all. What, that motherfucker lose, like 60 court cases? But if you're just one of those people who can't accept that all of these investigations resulted in no evidence of fraud, things done by Republicans, Democrats, Trump-appointed judges, you fucking name it, it was all over the place, and they all found the same thing, I can't help you. Instead of having education and reasoning, I actually have a massive case of TDS, and you're going to want to unsubscribe as soon as you can, because my silly and stupid arguments are going to make your big, smooth brain explode. So we got all this non-existent fraud, right? And since that's like definitely totally happening, even though I won last time, I think what we should do is make it so that only citizens should be able to vote. Wait, isn't that how it already works? Well, that's inconvenient. Let's just say there was a ton of fraud. My followers will believe me at this point because I have convinced them that literally anything is true pretty much the same way as like Kim Jong-un. I could tell them that I don't shit, and they would literally believe me. I'll discuss this part in more detail in another video, but it gets into a whole other conversation about just education, understanding forensic-based evidence, history, and all that kind of stuff. I think it's important to remind people that the Republican Party, since it was formed, has won 25 of the last 42 elections. The Democratic Party has won 17. That is a win rate of about 60%. Despite this, the results of the 2020 election continue to be discredited to this day, despite the lack of evidence. And trust me, dude, I want our elections to be secure as well. But like, if you say that there's fraud and then you can't prove it, like, what the fuck am I supposed to think? Am I just supposed to believe you because you said so? Hey, yeah, we got this like dude over here. He like murdered someone and stuff. Oh, cool. Do you have any evidence of that? Nah, he's like super guilty though, dog. Like, cool, sure, man. No, you need to present evidence. Like, it's the same. Oh my God. What? No, you have to prove it, dude. What the fuck are we doing? And what do authoritarians do? Exactly this. You start by discrediting the election results. You use your media apparatuses to spread misinformation and doubt, which I've said before is way easier now with social media. You cloud the discussion in like conspiracy theories and bullshit, and you discredit anybody who opposes you. Because if I were a crazy asshole, that's what I would do. And once authoritarian systems have discredited elections, they will implement laws that restrict voting, and it will be in the public interest. It'll be for public safety. I would push through legislation like the SAVE Act. It would make you then reapply in person, and it would require you to have a birth certificate or a passport. Got those? This legitimately makes married women who have changed their name unable to vote because their name doesn't match their birth certificate. This, similar to Jim Crow laws, would functionally make it so that poor people and minorities wouldn't be able to vote at all, which is awesome because they vote for the other guy. I don't know about you fuckers, but I don't carry around my fucking passport or my birth certificate, and I don't fucking have to. And I can guarantee you, most of the people watching this don't have that shit. You probably don't know where your birth certificate is. You probably don't have a valid passport, right? Oh, but I wouldn't stop there, dude. I would try to nationalize voting. I would illegally strip states of their ability to conduct elections the way that they see fit. I would claim that I'm for small government while actually doing the exact opposite of that. I would get rid of mail-in voting and I would discredit any form of voting that my opposition uses. And, oops, I guess fuck the veterans while we're at it because that's how most of them use voting. And so I'm just going to do this and then I'm just going to discredit mail-in voting. That's one thing I'm going to do. Because, despite it being around since the 1800s, including barcodes, is linked to your social security number, which, only citizens have. Fuck it, dude. We'll just claim that there's massive fraud. And then when we take it to court, we'll present no evidence and then turn around and go, yeah, guys, there was still massive fraud. Like, it's fucking insulting. Like, I'm not that fucking dumb. But, like, they think that we are. But what happens when this fails? What happens when our vote gets taken away? Well, the first thing that happens is the power of whatever administration is in power when that happens, their power immediately solidifies. They ain't going fucking anywhere, bro. All the other rights that are in the Constitution, completely optional for the government to enforce at that point. And they'll pretty much only enforce it for people that agree with the state. Any dissenters get fucked. When you lose the right to vote, you lose the option for peaceful recourse. You get insurgency, you get domestic terrorism, you get sabotage and subterfuge, you get instability and chaos. Protests may still take place, but they escalate very quickly, and might makes right, because that's the default mechanism at this point. You can't vote, what are you gonna do? You're gonna get physical. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying that's how it works. Supply lines are disrupted, the economy suffers, life is uncertain. Take a look at any dictatorship out there, now or in history. The pattern is always the same. Like, if I was trying to stay in power, I would do whatever Putin's doing, and I would just take his playbook to a T. I might even go as far as to collect voter information, and then put all of my opposing people in concentration camps. What stops me from doing that? There's no judicial police, so like, and I have full immunity according to the Supreme Court, so like, what stops me from doing that? Literally, what stops me from doing that? The scary answer is nothing. Okay, so, a little hysterical there at some points, but where do we really land here? Take a look around, guys. Your vote is increasingly just not being heard. Healthcare, super popular. Gun reform, super popular. Education reform, super popular. Legalization of marijuana, super popular. Pathways to citizenship for migrants, super popular. Workers' rights, super popular. Climate action, super popular. Clean energy, super popular. General social programs, pretty popular. And that's just to name a few. And why is it that we all agree, mostly, on all this stuff, and yet nothing seems to get done? Nothing has changed. And you all know the answer. It's fucking rich people, bro. When policies with broad public support just continually stall forever, no wonder people stop voting. Of course they question whether their vote carries any weight whatsoever because it doesn't seem like it does. And as people become more and more complacent, it becomes easier and easier and easier to take the right away entirely so that it actually doesn't matter and so that you actually can't do anything at that point. When people stop believing that they can vote and go to the ballot box and actually see some change, they will start searching for other ways to produce that change. You guys want healthcare? Hey, actually, sorry about that. We had these lobbyists for the healthcare and for the insurance industries that made that just go away. You want some gun reform? You tired of your kids getting murdered at school? The NRA made that lobbied out of existence. You want some, like, education reform or something? The financial industry lobbied that out of existence. Oh, by the way, that $500 payment for that degree that you don't use, that's due next month. Let me get that. You guys want marijuana to be just fucking legal nationally? That'd be awesome, right? Yeah, there's all these conservative lobbyists that made that go away. Okay, well, how about, like, some social programs that they have in, like, literally every other developed country? Yeah, about that. Like, pretty much every corporation lobbied that out of existence. We gotta get some kind of win here, though, right? Like, how about some workers' rights? Well, you see, Walmart and Amazon and other corporations like that, Tesla, lobbied it out of existence. Okay, well, fuck it, man. How about some clean energy, at least? That's not... Give me something. Yeah, the fossil fuel industry... lobbied it out of existence again. And so we need to take this seriously, guys. Really fucking seriously. Because once it's gone, all bets are off. Restricting and removing the right to vote is the single most offensive and oppressive thing that a fucking country can do to its citizens. And like I said, man, when the ballot stops mattering, people are going to turn to other tools. I'm not saying that's my plan. It's not my plan. But history has shown us that that is what happens. And if we lose this right, things are going to get so ugly, dude. Especially in this country where we have more guns than people. So understand how this works, guys. This does not happen overnight. This happens very gradually, and we need to be aware of the warning signs, because right now, we're standing in the building and like literally like the nuclear radiation alarm is going off and everyone's just at their desk not giving a fuck. Like, wake up, this is not a drill, because we're on the brink of failure here. And I fucking mean it, man. I need you to take what I'm saying seriously. I've said in a few of my other videos recently that our right to vote is effectively going to be gone. Like, by the time the election comes, there's going to be like martial law because there's going to be so many protests against ICE because they're going to ramp up their tactics, which is, of course, going to cause more protests. They're going to react to it with more brutality. That's going to cause things to get worse. Maybe martial law gets invoked. Something like that, right? Something like that's possible. Or that SAVE Act that I was talking about, I didn't make that up. There's a link to it in the description. Gotta have a birth certificate or a passport, which most people don't have. Or the government will just straight up, and this is, who knows at this point? I mean, Georgia election office thing happened, but they'll literally just go in and seize voting machines and just declare themselves the winner. Not present any evidence and just be like, yeah, we actually won. That is not outside the realm of possibilities. And I will be glad to be wrong, because at that point, when the election happens, I will make a video at that point. And if I'm right, then, and I told you so is not going to fucking cut it. But if I'm wrong, I will be celebrating. And I'll be like, man, you remember that video I made where the multiple videos where I was talking about how bad elections were going to be and how, like, we're not going to be able to vote? Like, how stupid was I? I would love to make that video, and I hope I do. But if I'm right, it's game over, bro. Like, we need to start attacking. Not physically, like, metaphorically speaking. We need to start attacking, though. We need attack dogs on our side. No more half measures. No more half-baked politicians. No more mincing words. No more decorum. We need people who are willing to say fuck off. Plain and simple. We need people as passionate as I am out there and telling these people every single fucking thing about their policies that are fucking stupid and that are bad for everybody. We need them being torn to shreds for how just incredibly fucking stupid all of their ideas are and for how unpopular they are. Because I'm not even interested in debating people anymore. I'm making these videos to give you information. No debates. Fuck that. You're either in a death cult or you're not. The end. You either stand for the same things that I stand for or you don't. Each one of these videos is going to go through a different amendment of the Constitution. You think that I'm not American? You think that I don't value our Constitution? But we must form an agreement. If you're running and you're not for Medicare for all, don't run. If you're not running on a platform of removing money from politics, don't run. If you're not running on a policy that is putting America actually first and moving us into a first-class country, we're the richest country on earth, dude. We are lacking so many things that other countries have that don't have nearly as much money as we do. Don't run. If you're going to be complacent in genocides, don't run. If you're not going to fight for workers' rights, don't run. And if you're not going to hold the people that are causing me to make these videos accountable, do not run. Voting isn't sacred because it's symbolic. It's sacred because it's practical. It's what keeps power reversible and accountable. And it's about fucking time that we held some people accountable. It's about fucking time that some things we want are implemented. That's it for this one, guys. Like, subscribe, whatever. Maybe there's a Patreon, maybe not. I don't know. I hope this was somewhat helpful and sobering to some of you. Share it so that more people watch it and so that the channel can grow, so that this voice can get heard. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I mean that. And I guess that's it. We got so many more things to talk about, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget about the gaming channel. Check that out.